Hey, Rich Linger here. I want to talk about one of my most productive baits from last year, 2012, and talk about some of my favorite ways to rig it. The bait that I ended up catching a lot of fish on last year, that was kind of new to me, was the Evolve Kompak Craw. So, a relatively new company, started out with some cool frogs, getting into soft baits, and they're producing some really cool stuff. I immediately saw the Kompak Craw here. And to me, it looked like the ideal punching bait for punching foil and punching mats and things like that. So the first thing I wanted to do, and the most obvious way for me to think how to rig this craw, was to grab my big old 8-foot Dobbins 805 flip punch rod. 50, 60 pound braid like it is now, 20 pound fluorocarbon. And go find some summertime fish relating to grass. Right out to Minnetonka, flip the foil. Right here we got rigged on a 3/4 ounce weight. One nice thing about this is you can really punch some pretty heavy grass with a pretty light weight because it's a pretty compact body, as the name. So here we got a 3/4 ounce tungsten sinker. It's important to have like a punch stop or bobber stop there. I like a straight shank hook with a keeper on it. And one thing that might be hard to see, but this craw has just a little bit of a bump on the one side. So I like to come from the back side, the opposite side of that little bump. And come into this bait, 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch. Get that stop, that hook through there, turn it, and then bring that point kind of right into that little raised area. And there's a nice little meaty part of the bait that kind of holds that hook. You get a nice straight compact craw there that's got a nice subtle action. And that point sits in that nice little raised area there, and you can see your hook is basically right in the very end of that craw. So you got a little bit of appendages, the craw's right there. If a fish grabs it at all, you're almost always going to hook them. You don't miss a lot of fish with this. So to me, here this is kind of showing the June bug color. Should be great for flipping mats in Florida and other places. It's a great bait. You can also downsize that weight, flip sparser grass, use it as a finesse craw. Did really well last year on the leech flake version, on like a 3/8 half ounce weight, flipping eelgrass. Went through an area, caught fish in practice on beavers. Tournament time, wasn't getting bit. I felt the fish were there. Came back with this subtle craw. Finished out my limit. Had a nice bag that day. Caught a 4.5 pounder. Really helped me out. So if you fish with tough conditions, they're not hitting your big baits. Whether you're flipping, punching, or just a lighter presentation, it's a good option. You can't go wrong Texas rigging the Kompak Craw. The other thing you can do is if you need to bulk up your bait, you can put on a punch skirt, bigger weight, same kind of presentation. Makes it look a little more like a jig. Great punching bait. Likewise, another thing that was pretty good for me is I like heavy tungsten jigs like this 3/4 ounce tungsten Bass Tech tungsten jig. And the thing I like about this craw is usually when you're fishing this 3/4 ounce jig, you want it to really crash through and kind of catch the fish by surprise. So you can put a big bulky trailer like a Rage Craw or something like that on it, but I like this streamlined approach when I'm dunking it in the holes in the foil and pitching it into small creases. It really gets down fast, gets on those fish quick, they react to it, puts a lot of fish in the boat. So get yourself a nice heavy Bass Tech tungsten jig, small little profile, get in there, crash pads, crush foil, whatever you want to do. So some of the other things that I did with this last year, a little less obvious. Late in the year, got on a deep river smallmouth bite, fishing hair jigs. And so this is kind of a hand-tied black and blue hair silicone mix. And as the water got colder into the 30s, the bite kept on getting tougher, and fishing regular chunks and twin tails and stuff wasn't getting bit. So thought to all the tons of plastic I have, and I decided to try this Kompak Craw with this real subtle action because the hair is a very subtle presentation as well. And I immediately started catching them really well. I actually have another video you can check out catching them that way. But this outfished the guy in the back of my boat and my buddy that was in another boat, versus the chunks they were using. We were fishing the same jig, so definitely made a difference. It's a perfect subtle presentation to go with a hair jig. And then lastly, all winter I've been catching a ton of fish on the Mississippi River, smallmouth fishing, and I fish a lot of shaky heads, with beavers and other types of plastic and things like that. And this year I really was having, the first day out I had a lot of trouble getting bit on my normal shaky beaver, so I went to, I figured, hey, smallmouth, they like that on the hair jig, so I thought I'd give it a try. So the important thing here is you want this to be a fairly extra wide gap shaky head. So this is a 3/16 ounce football head with a extra wide gap. If you use your standard shaky heads with the narrow gap, you're probably going to end up frustrated because there's just a little too much meat in this bait to get a decent hook with a small hook like that. So I ran out of my EWGs one day, tried to go to this, missed most of the fish that bit it. But with this setup, I caught almost every one I had. So you just thread this on the screw, and then like you would any other craw or beaver or shaky head worm, and expose that back through. And this was deadly all winter long on smallmouth. So I'm sure if I was around largemouth, they'd eat this as a finesse presentation too. So as an alternative to a shaky head, a great little bait. And you see, you kind of need that extra wide gap hook to have that the gap. So when this thing collapses, you got plenty of bite for that fish. So hey, that's the most popular ways I found to rig it. The great thing about and say, they're not real cheap baits, but they're pretty affordable. They're made of a soft, elastic type material. They hold up really well. You'll catch a lot of fish, and you can keep shoving this hook point back in there, and it holds really well. And when the head gets torn up, you bite it off, make it into a jig trailer, so you make them last a little longer. So hey, check it out. Those are my favorite ways to rig the Kompak Craw. Really, it's your imagination holding you. I'm sure you could drop shot it or put it on a jigger rig, or upside down Okeechobee rig it. There's a lot of options, but those are my best ways that I've caught fish on them. So check it out and try it out.